Just kidding.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'd like to call this meeting of the select board, joint meeting of the select board and trustees to order for the select board.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Woodstock Village Board of Trustees on January 7th, 5 p.m. The first item on our agenda is additions and deletions. The agenda, I have one.
I would just ask to request to move the Two River presentation first, so they can present and then leave, not to stick around for the budget.
Oh, that budget's so exciting. Is there?
What's your addition?
And I have an addition of, I'd like to, at the end, add an executive session just for the trustees.
After,
Yeah, after the select board adjourns. Is that okay with the trustees? Are there any other additions or deletions?
citizens' comments?
Are there citizen comments about something other than what we have on the agenda? No? Okay, then let's move on to the Two River Ottavici Regional Commission discussion. Harry, come on up, tell us
Hi there.
who you are and why you're gracing us.
Hi, so yeah, for those of you on the select board, we've met before. I haven't been here in several months, face to face with you, but it's good to see you again. For those of you on the trustees, I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting. I'm Harry Falconer. I work as the shared energy coordinator for a consortium of 6 towns, including Woodstock. So I work pretty closely with Eric and Ginevra from Sustainable Woodstock, really on all things under the sun that pertain to energy in the town and village. I'm here tonight to talk about the municipal planning grant program. Basically what I need from both boards tonight is a sort of informal nod that you would like Two Rivers to help prepare an application for the planning grant program. The reason I think the town and village should apply for the planning grant is we have sort of an initiative going with the local planning commission with the help of Ginevra and Laura and Jill to really look at the town's bylaws and plan, that sort of the wholesale regulatory environment in the town and village, specifically as it pertains to smart growth or, you know, allowing housing and more dense uses in the village essentially. And so we have taken a look at the bylaws in the town plan, and it's clear that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, specifically when it comes to the town plan. If we want to make some necessary zoning changes to bring the bylaws up to a modern standard and to allow more housing and be more inclusive of sort of development that's going to help you grow the grand list and provide for some of the housing needs that the town is facing. And so the MPG application would essentially be for a wholesale redo of the town and village plan, focusing on a chapter called the future land use chapter. Town plans are mostly aspirational documents. They really kind of just set the policy tone for local bylaws and other local ordinances. They're not really binding in a lot of cases, but in the case of the future land use chapter and the future land use map, it is actually very important because in Vermont, the zoning bylaw map has to be in alignment with the future land use map. And in the case of Woodstock, the town plan's future land use map is very, very restrictive. At some point down the road, no one really knows when, the future land use map essentially duplicated the town and village zoning map. So you are not able, or the planning commission and the select board and the trustees are not able to update the boundaries of the zoning districts or the descriptions of those districts and the types of uses that are allowed in them without first changing the town plan. So it's basically, it's got you locked into the exact zoning map that you have right now. You're not able to change the boundaries of those districts or really make any kind of substantive changes to where the borders are there. So very, very important, I would say, to update the future land use map and bring it into alignment with sort of best planning practices. Future land use maps are really supposed to be very general. They're less sort of prescriptive than zoning maps that have maybe say like a commercial light industrial or a downtown mixed use or a rural area. They're really just like, where do we want to grow? Where do we want to kind of stay the same? And where do we want to conserve? And right now, like I said, that future land use map is really, really prescriptive. It's the exact same as the zoning map, and that's not good practice because then we can't make any changes to the zoning. So again, the MPG application would be mainly for the town plan. You can ask for up to $30,000 from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development for the MPG program. It has a 10% match requirement. So if we had a total project cost of $30,000, it would be a $3,000 match from the town side. So that is really what I'm here to get your kind of nod on. It doesn't have to be a formal vote or anything, but once we go back to the office, prepare the application, I will have to come back and get both boards to sign off on, can't remember the actual name of the document, but basically it does involve a formal signature to say that both boards approve of the application and get it submitted. So we would probably want to do that towards the end of February. The application is not due till the end of March, but we would probably want to do that around that time. Yep.
What's the timeline?
Yep. So the application, it actually doesn't open yet. That's kind of why I'm here, getting my ducks in a row to get your kind of nod before the application opens at the end of this month. The application closes at the end of March. And then once the awards are made, you have 2 years to actually do the work. So it's a pretty generous timeline for when the work actually has to be done. Two Rivers normally serves as the consultant on the grants. So in other words, in most cases, if you get the grant, usually we are hired automatically. Unfortunately, Woodstock is too large of a town in Vermont terms to get that automatic designation. So you will have to bid out the project for this grant. We would like to bid on it, so we can't help you prepare the RFP to do that work. But there are a bunch of support materials from ACCD that provide a template RFP, and we'll help you do that work. We're just, due to the conflict, we won't be able to help you with the RFP, but we can point you in the right direction, certainly, in preparing that. And I can, make sure everybody knows where to look for those things. But yeah, Two Rivers would eventually like to bid on this work to be the consultant to handle the planning grant for you, if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird system, since we would be applying for the grant and then bidding on it.
So if hypothetically we win and we award it to you to Two Rivers,
Mhm.
what does 30,000, like you guys are obviously doing this kind of a job is probably costing
Yeah.
more than $1,000. So, or does it only cost $30,000?
Nope, through us. So when I come back in February with your blessing, we'll have a work plan written out that says our hourly rates for all the different types of work, how many hours we anticipate spending on each item, and so on. And we'll have the application filled out for you to approve before you officially sign off on it and we send it in. Yeah, I mean, other consultants will be able to bid on it when you put in the RFP. I mean, we're in the public sector. We're sort of a quasi-governmental agency, so our rates are almost definitely going to be lower than someone in the private sector. So I'm sure we'll be competitive if there are other applicants, in fact. But yeah, $30,000 is, we have never applied for a municipal planning grant before more than $20,000. But, with the increase in, inflation and wages, et cetera, and the size of this project, we would probably want to go closer to that $30,000 mark. Once my supervisor runs the numbers, it may end up being lower than $30,000. We are giving you that high-end figure for the $3,000 match just to make sure that it makes your budgeting. But it may not be that much. It may be closer to 2,000. Well,
How competitive is this grant?
Two Rivers, every RPC submits a handful of these applications every year. I'd say the majority of them are awarded. I would say the substance of what we're applying for is pretty competitive. And Woodstock hasn't gotten a municipal planning grant in several years. So I would think you would be pretty high priority, and we can, based on the scoring criteria, I think we could score pretty highly here. So.
And who makes the decision about who awarded the grant?
It's the Agency of Housing Agency of Commerce and Community Development, Department of Housing, and can't remember what DHCD stands for right now, but if anybody knows what that is.
Trustees, do you have any other?
No, I
This is
just,
great. Sorry, Laura.
sorry, I just want to emphasize that this is tied to several of the joint goals that we've set. Obviously, with housing and development, one of the ways that we articulated that we wanted to do that was through the bylaws. And as Harry mentioned, we can't change a lot of the bylaws without updating the town plan. And I just want to reassure everybody that this doesn't mean that we're changing like village or town boundaries. This is simply like design districts, which if you've looked at, especially within the village, we have a lot of, we have like so many districts that could be consolidated. We have light commercial, we have industrial light commercial. We have a plot next to Jeffrey, or that Jeffrey and I live next to, that's, there's one parcel in this zone, it's called retail office. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about zoning district changes. I'm really grateful for the work Harry has done on this project and the work that hopefully the Planning Commission is going to take on. But yeah, I just wanted to say that this underlies and underscores several priorities and goals that we've already agreed to. So I'm really supportive of this effort. And the magnitude for our match, you know, like it's $1,000. If the difference is between $20,000 of the our of the project cost versus $30,000, that's only a difference of $1,000 for us in terms of match.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Hi there.
To stand here, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know why we do it this way, but this is the way we do it. I guess it's open meeting somehow or other.
Say your name, Roger.
My name's Roger Logan, Woodstock Village. I fully support going ahead with this. I would like, to the extent that it's possible for you to do, for the boards to commit to actually taking action and for the plan that's developed to have as many actionable items in it as possible. Because I went through 1 billion planning processes in my career, and mostly they ended up as pretty binders on a shelf somewhere that nobody ever looked at. So, you know, I think it's critical that we go forward with this, and the zoning map issue is obviously a clear one, but I would, before undertaking this project and having people spend their time and money on this project, I think it would be advantageous that when you take a vote to do this, you also make a commitment to seriously considering and going forward to the extent that you can with any of the action items that are proposed. Thanks. The limbo.
Yeah, and I suppose I should also note that currently, because of the big housing laws state housing laws that have come into place, Act 181 and Act 47 over the last couple of years, there are parts of the village and town zoning that are out of compliance with those laws right now. And in order to bring them into compliance with state law, we can't do that until the future land use map of the town plan changes. So, and again, it's not that those state laws aren't in effect. They obviously supersede local zoning in that case. So they're out there, they exist, and they're in effect right now. But for the sake of usability and simplicity and streamlining the bylaws so that we can hopefully get more applicants and encourage more housing and development, we would want the bylaw to be as user-friendly of a document as possible and in alignment with what the actual state law is ideally. So yeah, changing the future land use map is a prerequisite to all of that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We like it when people go get us money, so. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I will plan on returning in February then with the application and hopefully get your sign up then. Thank you all.
And Harry, does it be the village and the select board, or can it just be the select board?
You have a unified town and village plan, so it will have to be approved by both.
Okay.
And also the planning commission, but I sit in on all the planning commission meetings now, so I can arrange that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Budget discussion.
So I don't know, so the budget discussion is on there, in case there were anything in the budgets that affected both the town and the village with changes. As of now, correct me if I'm wrong, the select board has not made any changes to any funds that would directly impact the village budget. I don't know if the village has any changes they want to discuss that would impact the select board budget. But this is kind of a time to kind of leave it open if there was, you know, there's different account lines that could be impacted by a change on either one of the boards. So I haven't heard anything that would have, but I want to have an opportunity for the board to be together in case that was the case.
Well, yeah, actually, we have discussed, brought up a couple of them, which that would affect both, town and the village. One would be an increase of 2% to employees to the budget.
Yeah, the select board, Ray can correct me if I'm wrong, in their meeting at 4 decided against making that change.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, well, that kills that. The other one that we've discussed, and I don't think the select board has yet, would be to increase the allotment from the endowment fund
Yeah.
from 4.2% to 5%. I know, but this is.
Yeah, that was the next agenda item. I mean, if there aren't anything else about the budget, we can move just to that.
Trustees, did you have any other budget item?
No, it's just personnel.
Laura, Terry?
You were there.
Oh, yeah, it's quick
No.
cancel.
What was your vote on that?
We just vote on.
We didn't vote anything in particular, but
Yeah. Would have won, but.
Okay. Roger, did you have a question or?
I have a general comment about the combined village and town budgets, which I hope this is the appropriate place to bring it up. My name is Roger Logan. I live in Woodstock Village. I appreciate all the work that all of you have done, and including Eric and his staff, to limiting to look for any potential savings in the budget. And it's clear that that's been done. And right now you're kind of pushing around, can we say 15K here or 2K here or anything else? I think it's time for radical thinking about this. I think it's time to look for significant items that maybe not necessarily can be eliminated, but that need to be looked at very carefully. And clearly the one that affects both of these boards are the town police budget, the town and village police budget. It's clear it's by far the lion's share of the village budget, and it's a significant part of the town budget as well. And I think given that, and given the fact that we're at this point pushing deck chairs around to see if we can stop the ship from turning over, we need to find serious economies. And I'm not saying I have the conclusions for this, and I'm not saying that I know what all the right answers are, but I think we need to start asking serious questions, whether it becomes effective in this budget season or it takes longer and it needs to have a more thorough examination. So I think we need to look carefully and honestly at what are the data demonstrated benefits of Woodstock having its own police force. We talk about regionalization. Policing is one of the few big ticket items in our budget where there is an existing structure for regionalization, and that's the county sheriff. Again, I'm not saying that this is the way we should go. I'm suggesting it's something we should start looking at carefully. Is Woodstock's police force efficiently and appropriately adding value to addressing community needs? Are they doing what we need them to be doing in terms of how the operations of the Woodstock police force are conducted? Is random patrolling a significant deterrent to crime? Is it addressing other significant needs that we may have? Again, I don't have the answers to this, but I think it's a question that needs to be asked. Could the town and the village be receiving additional revenue from more robust enforcement of traffic laws? There's clearly a lot of money on the table for speeding fines. And again, I don't know how to go about it, but I think it's another question that needs to be asked. Woodstock spends $348.47 annual per capita. Killington, which I would argue is a somewhat equivalent town to Woodstock, spends $280.67 annual per capita. Bridgewater and Pomfret, which contract out to the sheriff's department and the state police send $35 annual per capita. And Middlebury, which is somewhat similar to Woodstock in that it's got a large transient population with the students, spends $145.83 per capita. I think we need to look at those numbers and decide whether we are getting value, the full value of having our own police force configured the way that it is. And in order to make those determinations, we need to have data. And I've been told several times that the current software that the police department is using will not generate the data in the way we need it. I've looked at that software and I am confident that there is a way to get data out of that software if we're using it correctly. It's a standard software. It's clearly capable of producing the reporting that we would need to make some of these decisions. So I'm not suggesting that, I'm not saying that this has to be done or that has to be done, but I think we need to start looking critically because this is a big ticket item and all we're doing right now is deciding whether we're gonna save 15K here or not do fireworks and save 15K. We don't have any room left. If we're in the same place next year, which there's no reason to believe we're not, we're going to have another double-digit increase for the town and the village, aside from whatever Montpelier decides in its strange little way that we're going to be paying in property tax and school taxes. So I think we need to look seriously at things. Maybe we need to eliminate the overnight shift and contract the sheriff's department. There's a number of things that could be looked at. And again, I am not an expert on this. And if there's no economies to be had here, then there's no economies to be had here. But I think we need to look critically at this big ticket item. Thanks.
About the budget before we move on. And a reminder, the trustees are going to have a fuller discussion on this next week at our the village. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a vote about the Vermont Endowment Trust Fund.
Yeah, I can get some history and Jill Davies is here to help. So the trustees had a meeting last week. One of the questions they had was if more money can be allocated by the Vermont Endowment Trust. Woodstock Vermont Endowment, okay. Jill at the time said that there are options to do that. I think the trustees looked at maybe go from 3% allocation to 5%. Jill has an update on what the committee discussed this morning, so I'll let her discuss that and then kind of go into the next steps.
Hi, I'm Jill Davis. I live in the village and I'm the leader of the Woodstock Investment Advisory Group. So we're an advisory group. Jeffrey sits in that group as well. There's 5 of us. And our task is to make sure that the endowment fund that has been left to this town is managed well and at the moment, the policy is disperse money every year. And the purpose of the money was to provide the town and the village for funds in lieu of taxes when the Rockefeller Mansion was given to the National Park Service. So the fund is now worth $2 million. And we were asked, how could the town and the village get more money out of it? There's a couple of policies that are really important. There are a couple of things that are written in the policy directive that are important. And one is that you both manage this fund together. One can't make a decision without the other. There's a line in the current policy, which is that no more than 8% of the average market value of the funds can be distributed in any year. But extraordinary distributions may occur from time to time. And you can also change the policy entirely. There's a policy and ordinance that we follow, but it's under your remit to change that if you want to. There was a statutory obligation that the Rockefellers gave the money and wished for it to be an endowment fund that made payments every year for 20 years. We're now past that 20-year point, but we're still managing it with your agreement so that it pays out every year. So under that provision, we're managing it like an endowment fund, and we have advice from lots of other people that manage endowment funds. And to take 8% a year from this fund is very aggressive, and we would not be comfortable that the fund was sustainable for the future. There are many funds that take 5%. And certainly under the current market conditions where the market keeps increasing, it seems safe to take 5% so that we can have a sustainable fund for the future. And so the committee met this morning and agreed that we would be happy to recommend taking a maximum of 5% disbursement each year, and keeping it at 5%, we believe will keep the fund sustainable. And then we wanted to add the proviso that if the market conditions change dramatically, we want to revisit these recommendations. So that was a unanimous thought. The amount of money that we disperse right now is equivalent to 4.2% of the fund. So what we'd be doing is two things. One is we'd say we recommend that the amount of money taken out each year can go up to 5%. But we're also recommending that instead of our practice of taking the tax increase and applying that to last year's disbursement, we just say we'll disperse 5% of the fund each year, or a maximum of 5% of the fund each year. So that would make differences for your budget numbers. And the difference it would make is that this year, the disbursement is 75,000 to the town and 12,000 to the village. And if we had used the 5%, it would be 89,000 to the town and 14,500 to the village. So it makes a difference. And that's our recommendation.
And that's the 5%.
To go to 5%.
Any questions from the select board?
Yeah, I have a question. Jill, is this disbursement coming from the interest or the principal?
Interest.
Okay.
Fund is worth $2 million now, and I can't remember what the principal is, but it's very small in comparison.
And I guess this is a question for Eric. Are we voting tonight on the change of the disbursement for this year or for all years going forward until we vote again?
So I think, and Jill can correct me, what she said is up to 5% each year, correct?
Yeah.
So would you want to vote each year by the boards?
Well, if we don't vote, it would just be up to 5% each year.
Yeah. Well, I think we'd like the latitude to come to you if the recommendation changes from 5%. But we could go forwards and say it's 5% until something happens in the market and we're really uncomfortable with that.
And then just to be clear, because your email with me, the disbursement won't be made till next January for this budget we're talking about. So if things change dramatically between now and next January, the 5% could be higher or lower.
Yes, yes. So the average is worked out on the 12 prior quarters. So that's 3 years. So right now we've got 3 years of a market increasing. Let's say that we had a year of the market decreasing, that would take the average down. Could take the average down, or we could be flat. So it might be less money, but it would be always this constant 5%.
So with most revenue, it's unknown. We're estimating what we think will be, and we base it off that, but we can't be sure that it'll be exactly $15,000.
Yeah, we talked last week about this, and I think we were all pretty comfortable with the 5%.
We need to vote tonight.
Trustees, do you have any questions or concerns about changing it to 5? In that case, making a motion for this year or
For the fiscal 26 budgets.
okay, then I would make a motion that for the fiscal 2026 budget for the village, that we change the allocation for the Woodstock Vermont Endowment Trust Fund to 5%. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried.
Yeah, I'd like a motion from the select board to take up to 5% from the Woodstock Vermont Endowment Trust Fund. I'll
I'd make that motion.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So Ken, two quick things. One, for the village, I assume you want this change of revenue to decrease the tax rates and not be allocated. Okay. And I also want to thank Jill Davies. She's done a lot of work the last 7 days. I think I gave a 24-hour notice before the trustees meeting. She came prepared, she held a meeting and came back, and we've been emailing back and forth today on. So I just want to thank her for all the work she did to help the boards make the best decision today. So thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Yes, thank you.
Next item is other business. Is there other business before both boards?
All right.
The motion to adjourn for the select board?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And for the village, I'd like to make a motion under Title I, Section 313A to go into an executive session. After a finding that premature general public knowledge clearly places the public body or a person involved at a disadvantage. Is there a second?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Are back from, the trustees are back from the executive session. No decisions were made. Is there any other business to come before the trustees this evening? No. In that case, I would make a motion to dismiss at 6:19. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I'd give
Any
it up.
opposed? Go home. Thank you, guys.
I'm gonna get
So-
done.